Do you think we need it for the video?
Yeah.
Because we can certainly talk about it. But if you need it for the
Well, that's
video.
what you, like, maybe I just leave it on the table and I just pick it up and
It's actually pretty.
Yeah, and if you feel like we need more, we can hold it.
Well, this is great.
You just high step, you just go high step.
Hey, it's like playing on stage, wire running.
Every one of those.
I think if you just turn it there and we can pick up any one of these.
so that hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pick up any one.
Like I can just pick this one.
Yes.
You can actually take one. Look, you can take this one, you can take this one. And, I mean, but she thinks it might sound better on the YouTube live stream if you're talking into the mic.
Like maybe just hold it.
Like maybe just.
Okay.
And if we don't need, you can just take it out of the.
Yeah, we'll just move it down over there. Perfect. Okay. Well, it's Tawana show whenever she wants us to start.
All right.
That right on the DS2 there.
Yeah, she's.
Good morning, everyone. We'd like to call this meeting to order. And we're going to begin by having the board members introduce themselves. Oh, you know who you are.
No case.
Richard.
And I'm Charles McKnight. I am the chair. I'd like now for everyone to stand, and I'm going to ask Marty to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, thank you. I'd ask now that anyone who has not put their phones on mute, if you do that right there, we appreciate it. And we're going to ask our director to introduce our guest today.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending our election demonstration. As you know, my board members have already introduced themselves, but I also have my staff, and I have Ms. Emily Brown, I have Karen Skeleton, and I have Nicholas McCraw.
Amen.
Great staff of people that I work with. I also would like to introduce Ms. Janet Parrish, who is our Assistant County Manager that's in the midst of us today. So I thank her for coming. I thank you that I also have our Democratic Chair. I'm sorry, I just put you on the spot, you just walked in, just came in. I'm sorry to see our Republican Chair not here at this moment. And then I do have some friends from Lee County that's sitting way in the back. I don't know why, but okay. So they're also here. And I have my chief judges and sitting. I have Ms. Carolyn Wheeler, she's a part of our integrity project, who's also here. And I also do have one of our former county board members here, Miss Elizabeth. Miss Elizabeth, so she's also here. But I'm going to introduce you to PrintElect. We're going to start off with Mr. Owens, who is actually the president of the company, and then he's going to take it from here.
Be glad to.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tawana. Thanks for having us. My name is Owen Andrews, and as Tawana said, I'm with PrintElect. I'm the president of PrintElect, and I have some of my staff here that I'll introduce. First and foremost, I'd like to say thanks for not only being customers, but having us here for us to show you our new and improved or our newer equipment and talk to you about potentially upgrading a system that you've had since, I think, 2006. That would be right. So it's been a good run of the M100s and the auto marks that a lot of you precinct officials know about. We're still supporting that equipment. It still works. It's had many successful elections here in Moore County. And that's a part and parcel to the staff here taking care of it. We maintain it. We have parts for it. ES&S, who makes the equipment, election systems and software, has always maintains their existing customers' equipment. And if you weren't upgrading today, we would still support your equipment going forward. Times have changed, right? So technology changes every 6 minutes, maybe, certainly every 12 or 15 years. So we're going to show you some of our new technology. Security is a big issue for everyone now. So some of the staff here will talk to you about the features of the DS200 and the Express Vote, the 450 in our VOD system that we're showing today. So we'll hopefully all your questions will get answered. And I think any questions you have at the end, I think we'll take those and we'll stay around for a while. The weather's great. Who dialed that up? We brought it from New Bern. Did you bring it from Fayetteville? But anyway, it's what's supposed to be 80 today and then 46 on Saturday and rain. So we better get in and out pretty quick. I might have to, I've got my clubs in the car. So I know what I'm close to, but anyway, probably won't get a chance to do that, but there's always hope. That's why I ride around with them. But today here with me, I'll start over here to my right. My background is PrintElect. I've been there for 30 years. A fifth generation. It's a family-owned company. Actually, I'm the fourth generation. My son would here kill me right now. Of a family business that started in 1902 in New Bern. We've expanded in New Bern, and we also have a facility in Garner. So we're a North Carolina company, incorporated in 1940. Back when corporations started, I think we've got one of the lowest numbers in the state. I think our corporate number is like 3 or something. But my dad ran the company, my grandfather ran the company, and my great-grandfather started the company. Now my son, my oldest son, is in the company. He runs our Garner operation. He also is our vice president of sales. I'm substituting him today just because I wanted to get out and see you folks, and I left him in Garner. So old family company with a rich history in the elections business. We represent Election Systems and Software, who is the largest and oldest elections equipment manufacturer in the company. In the countries. ES&S has 60% of the registered voters. They're 45 years old. They're based in Omaha, Nebraska. They're an American company. We're an American company. And we've been together now for 20 years. People ask me what our relationship is, and I kind of equate it to like your Ford dealer here. You know, Ford is Ford, and they're a big company, and they make products, and then you have local folks sell them and service them. It's exactly what PrintElect does for ES&S. We've been selling, servicing, maintaining, and programming their equipment for 20 years. We represented another company before then, but that's the relationship. We're their feet on the ground in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Our folks, Tammy Malone, who's our field services director, support over 26,000 pieces of equipment, including Moore counties on an annual basis in the 3 states. So we've got 12 techs out there riding around all the time. Most of them drive 60,000 miles a year, and they're the ones that Tawana and staff see here. One of them is here today. Where did he go?
He's right here.
There he is. How can I miss the beard? But Glenn is our field services technician manager. He's got a big task in Tammy taking care of all that equipment, having parts and answering the questions and making sure that your equipment is ready to go for whatever election you have. So all that's done in North Carolina. We're completely intrastate, not interstate. Everything we do is done with North Carolina citizens. Tom Janicek, who is one of our sales associate, lives in Sanford, just outside of Sanford, so he's close. Michelle Morskowski, who's your account representative here, lives up in the Asheville area. She's a mountain girl. Glenn lives in, give me which small, Angie? Lewisburg. He lives in Lewisburg, works out of our New Bern office. Tammy lives in New Bern, but her roots are in Fayetteville. Her mom lives in Fayetteville, so she's over this way all the time. And Jennifer Sparks, who is our BOD and poll book manager, lives up in the Asheville area as well. So everybody in the room here is a North Carolina citizen paying North Carolina taxes and supporting North Carolina elections. Our companies are North Carolina companies. So in representing ES&S, that gives them a pretty distinct advantage over our only competitor in the state now, the certified, who works out of Austin, Texas. So I think, did I introduce everybody correctly? Okay, so that gives you a little bit of history on ES&S and PrintElect. What else was I supposed to talk to, Michelle? Excuse me if I go to my notes.
Just our relationship with Moore County and sort of the things that we've helped them do in order to get where we are today.
Yes, so our relationship with Moore County goes back before 2006. We supported some of their older equipment as well, and I know ES&S did also. I guess my first director here was Glenda. Obviously, everybody in the room probably knows Glenda. She was, when I got into business, she'd been in business a little while already, but she was a very good mentor for a lot of folks in North Carolina. Moore County was viewed as one of the kind of the stars in the 100 counties when I came on board because they had some experience and ran good elections. We've been supporting Moore County since 2006 on the current suite of equipment, and I know that during that time we've done everything within our power to do what Glenda needed and what Tawana needs and what the board has needed here, including some things, just a few. We deliver your ballots here. They're not shipped. Our competitor ships their ballots from Texas. It's more expensive. It takes longer, and they lose custody of the ballots, which is a big deal now. When you print ballots in our secure facility in Garner or New Bern, you can't get in our facility without one of these badges. Everybody signs in, signs out. We've got security cameras all over the place. I'm constantly forgetting my code and having to ask somebody and text them from the front door. I can't even get in most of the time. And we shred all of our ballots that might be, make-ready ballots or whatever, and we securely package them. And in most cases, I know in Moore County's case, where our customers want us to deliver them and don't want to give them to UPS or FedEx, we do that. Nothing against UPS or FedEx, but sometimes we've all had our experiences with them. So you don't want any lost ballots. You don't want ballots that, they delivered 6 or 7 boxes. There's nothing that gets me more paranoid than somebody calling me and saying, we got 6 of 7. I'm like, oh my God, where is that 7th box? It could be a terminal anywhere. So we generally try to deliver them. That's one of the advantages to us, not to mention we're an hour down the road. So if Tawana needs ballots printed or extra ballots, or we're having a big turnout, we generally can print ballots immediately. There's not like a 2-week lead time or this, that, and the other. We've printed ballots on every day, included election day. Never amazes me. There's always ballots being printed the day before or on election day somewhere. There's some ways to help with that, and staff will explain to you how the state has purchased some printers and some BOD printers and some tabulators regionally to kind of help if someone runs out of ballots on election day or during the early voting period. So there's some safety measures there, but we always are available to do whatever we have to do all the way up to election day. I've driven ballots myself as late as 4 o'clock in the afternoon to a precinct in North Carolina. So it can happen. You never know. Sometimes this precinct turns out a lot more than it did last time for whatever reason that is. So we do that. We're also storing some of your older equipment now. I think we got a call that we need some room, although this is a very nice facility. It's my first time in this one, and I know y'all are proud of it, and it was needed for sure. Space is always a problem with our elections customers across the state. No, there's never, it's like building a garage. You're not going to put your car in there. It's going to get everything else but the car. It's the same thing So Tawana called us, and she's got our older generation equipment of Ivotronics that most of y'all have used and set up in the past, and we have stored those for her just to give you space, and you know, that equipment obviously was replaced a long time ago. So we will do things like that. There's no charge for that. What else have we done for Moore County, Tammy?
Like for election support, we know our technicians are close by.
Good points. So we're always available to do election support in any of our counties. And most of our staff here, with the exception of me, because they just don't want to send me out to do election support, I don't know why, but they go out and support counties. If you have a new director, new staff, whatever, there are a lot of new directors. I mean, probably half of North Carolina's directors have turned over in the last 2 years. It's not as much fun as it used to be. But still, somebody's got to do it and do it well. We offer election day support for our customers where they're in a situation they feel like they need it. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on election day, most of our folks are out in a county like this. There as backup, as help, as technical support for whatever you might need. Jennifer might be there supporting VOD that you put in. Tom might be doing election day support. Glenn might be in there doing technical support. We all pretty much go out. All 50 of our employees are subject to get that call and go out on election day. So we offer that, and we also have regional technicians that we put strategically in locations around the state. They're not assigned to a county. They're probably sitting in a Holiday Inn Express in Sanford or Asheville or up north or down south. And they're there. They're usually our higher level technicians that work for Glenn and Tammy. And they're there for those emergency calls. You know, machines down, can't get results, you know, bigger problems. And then we send our what we call level 3 technicians out. So we try to position those within an hour or so of all of the counties. So we'll have somebody in the mountains. We usually have 4 or 5 out. I forget normally where one is around here, but probably in Fayetteville or Benson or somewhere like that. So we've got a tech pretty close, and that's not something we charge for. We just do that for our protection and yours. That's it? Okay on that?
We did a while back, several years ago, I guess Linda was short-staffed and asked us to come in and help her with the LNA that needed to be done. So, I mean, we came in, got it done before the election, and one stop began. So, I mean, we got plenty of resources to come out and help them anyway.
Anybody else want to add anything? I think I've covered it. I'm going to stop talking now, and everybody can applaud to that for sure and turn it over to them and let y'all see what you came here to see. Again, I'm here. I'll be here until your questions are over. We'll be glad to take questions and show you equipment after the demonstration and go from there. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Morskowski. She's your account sales manager, and I'll take a look. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. That was wonderful. And that was everything that anybody could possibly say.
Did I steal all your stuff? Now you have nothing to say?
No, I actually do. It's really the reason that we're all here, just to see the equipment and how it works and to answer questions about how a change like this might affect you as a board, as people in the county who are interested, as poll workers, chief judges. So that's why we're here today. We did want to, start out and introduce you so you'd know who you were talking to, and to introduce you, if you didn't know, our relationship with the county. I've been in elections 28 years, and Glenda was one of my mentors as well. I love her dearly. What we're going to do today is just to sort of introduce you to sort of how we're going to go through this demonstration. Is we have all the equipment you see up here today is, I'm going to just briefly tell you what it is, and then we're going to go into more of an in-depth demonstration of it. And then after we're finished with going through this process, we would invite you to come up and look at the equipment, touch it, vote on it, ask questions to us as staff, and then we'll see where we go from there. But we brought with us, this is a DS200, and the DS200 is a tabulator. Basically what it does is it reads paper ballots and it tabulates results. This equipment here, this piece, is what is being proposed to replace your M100s. So, you know, the metal ballot box with the, you know, diverter and all that. This doesn't have that, doesn't need that. And Tom Janicek will be telling you why. But this is the DS200, and it is a tabulator that reads paper ballots. These little guys right here are called express votes. And this is a universal voting system. It's what we call BMD, which stands for ballot marking device, otherwise known as a fancy pen. So it actually is a way that all voters, regardless of their disability or ability, the ability to see or to handle a pen or to do anything to read, you can actually vote on these independently and privately. And I'll give you a more of an in-depth demonstration on the express vote as we get to it. This is also what is being proposed to replace your auto marks. And those are the big, gigantic, clunky things that take consumables, and you know, they're difficult to set up, they're heavy for you to lift. So you're improving on that 60-some pound. This is a 22-pound and comes in a little bag that you can carry on your shoulder. This is what is called a central count. This is a DS450. This is not being proposed for your county to purchase, but we thought we would bring it because the State Board of Elections has purchased a fleet of these and purchased them for use by counties that use our equipment in case of recount. So if something happened and you had a county-wide recount and you needed to turn that around very quickly, you could actually use a state-owned DS450 to count your ballots. So we brought this so you can see how the central count works. And over here, last but not least, is my colleague, Jennifer Sparks, is in charge of the BOD, which is called Ballot on Demand System, and also the Express Vote Printer. And she'll be talking to you a little bit about how that works. That's currently not being proposed, but it is a way that we want to demonstrate that we are responding to counties' needs, and to tell you a little bit about how some of the other customers that we have in North Carolina are using some of this newer technology in order to make elections more secure, in order to put in fail-safe processes, and in order to save money and deal with voter concerns. So that's the suite of our products, and I'm going to hand over the first part of this to Tom Janicek, and he's going to tell you all about the DS200.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see all these smiling faces. First of all, it's good to see my director, Jane Ray, here today from Lee County. It's one great thing she's here because she's been through several elections with these pieces of equipment. So when we get done the presentation, we have the opportunity then to ask some questions. You can speak. Jane Ray will be here. Another great thing for this county is that you got a director that's already been through this. We went through this process in Hope County. It was very important to know that at that time, I remember the board members had some things at that time they wanted to say. And they had some questions. They had 3 items that was very important to them. One, the company or the type of equipment we're going to use, the quality of the equipment, the accuracy of the equipment is very important. We brought ESNS to the table. At that time also, too, we talked about support. The support you get. Again, Mr. Andrews talked about, we have over 50 individuals in our companies that's dedicated to elections. Very important, okay? Then we talk about our service level. Our service level of 12 to 14 representatives in the state who are certified technicians to be here for you for year-round purposes. I think we met the bill pretty well in Hope County. They did an outstanding job of implementation. You did an outstanding job of training and everything was involved in that process. I am here to talk about the DS200. Where are my poll workers at? Poll workers, get your hands up. Be proud. Thank you for being here. I know these people think they're important up front. You're the most important person here today.
Careful.
No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Because you're going to be working with this equipment every election. And I think you're going to be excited about it. Right now, the DS200 is probably in almost 90% of North Carolina being used in successful elections. And Mr. Andrews talked briefly about the company history we have here in Moore County. My wife does a lot of work in Moore County. I spend a lot of tax dollars here because we go shopping here. Not a lot, instead of going to Raleigh, it's easy to come down to Pinehurst this area to do some shopping. So anyway, we'll talk real quick about the DS200. A little bit different technology than you have today. We talk about the latest and the greatest, and this is what the DS200 is. The DS200 is the #1 selling optical scan unit in America today and has been for probably close to 10 years now. #1 selling optical scan unit in America, okay? Some of the features I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes. I'm going to talk about, probably start off with real quick here, talk about the ballot box itself. And I know that Michelle elaborated on this, and this is going to be for just a few minutes here, elaborated about your metal ballot boxes. Now, the metal ballot boxes have worked well. They're heavy, they're bulky, and they also have a diverter, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Some of the attributes of the M100 is really good. It's worked well over the years, but it's old technology. And the one big word I know everybody's mind is in the election business is the word security. Security, security. And that's what ES&S has done a fantastic job in bringing security to the table with the DS200. As you see here, we have a lid that goes down on top of it with a lock here. You also, she talked briefly about the LNA. LNA, for those who don't know what LNA is, it's logic and accuracy testing that we do on every election. Every election, your county board sits down with your director and they do a mock election on this equipment to make sure it works great and be ready for election day. Once those results are done, they zero the machine out, they lock it up, and they put a numbered seal in here. And that seal, when this unit goes out to the precinct, if a chief judge is here, they know there's a seal on that machine, and they know that the number on that machine better match the numbers on their chart. Okay, security. Also, you see locks here on the side here. Very simple machine to work with. So what I'm going to talk about real quick here is a little bit about the ballot box. Here, your M100 currently has an emergency ballot bin, and we need to have that. The DS200 has a battery backup, and it goes for about 4 hours of continuous voting. Some precincts I've seen them up in Virginia go off just about all day long because it's slow voting day. But what happens when the power runs out and then the battery power runs out? So you want to start using the emergency ballot bin to continue your election process. So it's just like your M100. One thing to think about today more than anything else is we're not really changing the way Moore County has been voting. You still have optical scan ballots and optical scan readers. Down below here, this is one that's really good. I really love this idea here. We talked about earlier the metal ballot box. It has the diverter down below. Now, real quick, I want to talk about real quick here. This does not have a diverter. The diverter's purpose, for those who need to know, a diverter, what it does is when you stick in a ballot, it has a write, it may have a write-in on it, right? Well, the diverter in your metal ballot box pushes the write-in ballot to one side of the bin, and then the regular ballots that don't have write-ins go to the other side of the bin, right? Okay. Well, we've done away with that process. How many times do the poll workers have issues at the end of the night filling out those ballots? Sometimes they get torn. Not your fault. It's been a long day. You've been there 12, 14, 15 hours. In this case, you'll never have to touch the ballots. What the unit here does itself is actually this ballot drop down into this box here. And this is a bin here that has, it'll have the capacity of about 2,500 ballots. At the end of the night, they'll be pulled out. You have to close the lid up to get it out of the bin. There's locks on the top. You'll put a seal here, and then this is ready. Now, come back to the precinct. Okay? One reason I was also going to say about the diverter situation is this. Currently with your DS200, the new DS200 coming into play, where are our write-ins going? Well, what's going to happen is when you do your totals tape at night, the write-ins are going to be at the bottom of the totals tape. See, the DS200 is different technology. It's digital, takes the digital imagery of the actual ballot. So if I write John Smith for county commissioners or write-in on the ballot, at the end of the night, on the bottom of the totals tape, you're going to be able to see John Smith. So a poll worker now can look at the bottom to check and write down all her or his write-ins on their sheets now, without touching the ballots. Thank you, Michelle.
Welcome.
All right, let's get into the unit itself. Now, poll workers, here we go. You have a 3-step process in the morning to open up your DS200. The one thing when the ES&S designed this box was to make it simple as possible. See, the thing about it is, when Mr. Andrews got into the elections business, when I got into it 23 years ago, the code book, and Jane, you should probably remember this, was about that thick. Today, I was going to fill out a code book, it's a boat anchor. So not only do the workers at the office have more to do, so do the poll workers. So ES&S says, look, let's come up with something simple, something easy to work with. So in the morning when you go to open up that machine, you're going to check your seal. Step number 1, you're going to plug it in. Step number 2, is you're gonna open up the two lids. And when you open up this lid here in the morning, it's gonna automatically turn on. Automatically turn on. Step 3, you're gonna have a code put into it. It's a code usually put out by the election director, given to the chief judge to be able to open the unit up. You'll follow your screen, it'll say, prompt you to go to vote mode, and you're all done. The unit's set up and done, ready to go for the day. Okay? At that time also, understand too, what it does, once you put that code in, it's now going to print out your zero tape for you. Okay? First thing in the morning. All right? Let this thing fire up a little bit here. A little bit about the technology of this machine. Where before we were using the PCMCIA cards as our medium, that goes away now. We now use an EAC, the Election Assistance Commission, the federal government, when they certify this machine, a certified thumb drive. Now, we can't use just any thumb drive. This is a thumb drive that is protected. And it's a thumb drive that's designed, actually, when you ever have to, anytime you have to, down the road, look at having to use other thumb drives, you just can't go to Walmart and buy them. It's done that for a purpose. Okay? It's done that for a purpose. Okay? He's putting a code in to get into the machine right now. This is what the poll workers do in the morning. Another thing to notice about the machine from my poll workers, you got a 12.1-inch screen. A little easier to look at than that little place on the front end of the M100 now. So you get a large screen to look at. Okay? So now we're opened up for the morning. What your procedure will be to use this tape. Are you going to be using the tape where it'll stay in here, or are you going to have it out, or are you going to tear it off? What's your procedures?
No, we keep it.
Keep it here. Okay? Ready. All right. So what we're going to get to now is actually get into the voting process. Okay? The ballots are here.
Those are blank ones. We got two.
Just like the ballots you've been using. Okay? I'm going to just vote a regular ballot. What this machine uses in its technology, I talked about the digital imagery earlier. ES&S has patented a process called intelligent mark recognition for the purpose of accuracy. And also one thing too, in the poll workers watch, when I put this ballot in, how fast it takes it. A lot of times our M100s get long lines at the polls. It's a little slower machine. Now it's going to speed up the process quite a bit. Same process, you also use this thing if you have an overvote, as you do with your M100s. Let's put an overvote in. You scan it, it knows I had an overvote. Look here, the screen tells me here, in this contest, preferred North Carolina vacation destination, you chose 2 candidates, you're only allowed 1. And it happens. A voter comes in, they voted for Martin, they meant to vote for William, so the voter voted. So what we do, it's the same procedure you had before. You return that ballot, and use the same process for polling the ballot as you did before. None of that changes. Okay? Everybody with me so far?
How do you secure that tape?
You're going to put whatever procedure the board decides to come up with on that, whether it be a paper clip or whatever, they'll come up with a procedure for you.
I mean, it's hanging on the outside now.
You can tear it off, and Tawana and her staff can decide to do whatever they want to. If they put it in a secure envelope.
This is probably what she's going to do right here. A lot of times, put on it and stick it on the inside here. But
That's up to you.
Yeah,
If you want them to tear it off and put it in a secure location, that's an administrative procedure for each county. Some folks will actually still stick it inside here.
yeah, most counties that I've worked in actually will put a piece of tape or something, not tape, but a paper clip on the outside, hanging it in between here. If you use it inside the printer here and forget it's in there, and then you use your totals tape the other night, it will jam the printer.
And I would just like to add that there's nothing on that tape that is a secret. Basically what this does at all times, anytime the machine is opened or closed, it it prints out what's happening. It runs a configuration report. So it'll say, okay, at this date, at this time, the screen was lifted, the power was on, or it was running on battery, or it was doing this. So this tape is just giving us a continuous record of what's going on with the machine. So if there's ever any question about what's going on, it's not only on the tape, but it's also saved into the memory of the DS200. So if someone says, well, in the middle of the day, they took a machine and they ran it down the road and they brought back another machine, there is documentary proof, both physical, printed out on the tape, and virtual in the memory, that tells you everything that's happened to that machine from the time that you put the coding in and through the time that you ran your testing, throughout the election, and even afterward. Yeah, there's no results that print out on it until the polls are closed at the end of the day. So this will have your zeros, it'll have your configuration report. Nothing is a mystery or enigmatic. It's just letting everyone know that this machine is secure and it's being used properly.
I think what they're saying is we always kept the zero tape attached to that first results tape so that you knew there was no.
A continuous record. And that's when I worked for the state, that's what we always told people to do, was keep it all together, keep it attached to the machine. That used to be state law. I don't know if that's still the way it is, but that back in my experience it was.
In that scenario, if somebody happened to tear the tape off in the middle of the day, it's not going to have any votes on it because you've not closed the machine out.
That's happened before. We've had
Right.
some in one precinct, they go there and tear the tape off.
Right. And
Which panicked the chief judge,
Of
because
course.
it kind of breaks our chain of custody.
Right.
You know, so.
well, the bad news is the configuration tape is gone. The good news is it doesn't have anything on it, zero votes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When there's an overflow, does it make a noise or does it just bring it up on the screen?
This current version does not. It's very quick to bring the screen up, a lot quicker than the M100. There is a version being certified that will. We haven't brought it to North Carolina yet. We're still waiting for the next level of certification. But you're talking about the beep?
A beep.
Yeah. How sensitive is it to humidity?
Well, an optical scan is more forgiving, but when you're dealing with ballots, you deal with ballots, it's not the machines, it's just the ballots is paper, it freezes, and it expands when it gets the moisture starts to get to it. You still need to take care of it. I never recommend putting a DS200 or an M100 close to a door in a precinct. It's kind of away a little bit. That can't be the issue. When you deal with paper.
I just have a question. So typically, and we may have to change our procedure during one stop, each night they go through the write-in ballots and they tally the write-ins for that particular day. So, and I guess I want to clarify, they won't be able to do that anymore. It won't be until we run that final result tape that those write-ins will actually be at the bottom of it. It's not like every night you shut it off.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're never totaling the early votes until early voting is over. You're just shutting the machine down
Yeah.
and everything's still within the machine's memory. The ballots are in the box.
Technically, you could still do that, though.
You could.
Pull the ballots out for that day. Some offices
Separate
do that. They pull the ballots out each and every day, seal them, lock them, put them away for that day. It's really going to be a procedure with the board.
So you would close the machines out every day, is that correct?
Well, you
And that's the
just turn the machine off and pull the ballots out.
Oh, you're not running the tape. Okay.
As well, you have the capability of bringing all those images on electionware. So if you didn't even want to touch the ballots, you wouldn't have to. You could read the stick into the software and it produces your ballot images and you can just separate out your write-ins.
Yeah, so you would never have to look at the
Yeah, you would
ballots,
never have to
because the
look.
images are
Could
saved.
you do that? Because, okay, so we upload our data each night from one stop to make sure it's updated each day. Would that be something we could see that night or?
No, you have to read no, you can't do anything with the write-ins unless you separate them out by hand until you close the machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good question.
You said that it's got an intelligent reader for marking. So if somebody puts a check mark, it will read it as opposed to having to fill in the oval?
Yeah, the intelligent mark recognition process, if something was within that oval, it will count it. But if it's not, it will let you know that it's not counting that mark. People X, people check, people don't read directions. We get that. I'm guilty. Yeah, I'm guilty. But yeah, it's more forgiving than the M100 is.
If you get some mark in the oval, likely will count. If you miss the oval entirely, likely won't.
Understood. Sometimes people
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We've got some funny ballots. We have a stack of ballots in my office that it would amaze you how they've been marked. It's quite entertaining. Yes, sir.
The new optical reader that you just spoke of, as you know, in the M100, you can put it in backwards, upside down, whatever. This one,
Same.
Same, any orientation.
it'll read it no matter how you.
Yes.
Upside down, tail first.
Just not sideways.
Right.
Yeah, it won't go in sideways.
That'd be.
So for early voting, every night we take everything out, separated by precinct, because we got 3 different districts voting. Is that done away with? What happens then?
That's a question for your board, your director.
Okay.
I think we would still do that. We do, so, because we separate them by precincts at the end of the night, because after, we do a precinct sort after the election.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you ever wanted to code by precinct, then you wouldn't have to do it.
Yeah, the DS200, one great thing about that, the M100 had a limit to how many precincts it would accept. The DS200 has a much greater limit, so it gives counties the flexibility to code by precinct, and then that does away with.
And then you don't even
30-day
have
sort.
30 days.
Yeah, and you don't have to do the 30-day sort. It automatically prints the results by the precinct.
And that's a huge selling point.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. You got Tawana's attention on that one.
So we can still do by style, you mean?
You can, you can do by style, or you can code by precinct.
Yeah.
You can go
That's just your option.
Which is actually by precinct and style.
by precinct and style.
And in years past, your printer has not wanted to do that because that creates a different print run for every precinct. So if you have 10 styles, that's 10 print runs on the old equipment. If you then have 50 precincts on top of it, then it gets exponentially more, and it takes the printers. If some of y'all have ever seen an old printing press, every time you change anything on it, you have to stop it, rip plates off, put plates back on. It's time consuming. In our new process for printing ballots, we print roll to pack. So we have a big roll of ES&S certified paper, and it runs through our press. And you can make as many changes. You can make a change on every page, and it never stops running. So the digital process allows printing multiple styles and by precinct. It doesn't cost any more. It used to be we would charge a whole lot for that because it took us a lot longer. Now it doesn't matter to us. So printing by precinct is a pretty good option with that sorting after the fact law around. It can help you quite a bit.
It's just an option.
Just an option.
One big plus we have in our company, and I'm proud of this, is the fact that Jennifer was in the office for the elections office in Buncombe County for a lot of years. Michelle was in New Hanover and with the state board for a while. We actually have a girl in our office who's a coder who was election director in Craven County. So having this knowledge they haven't bring to our company is an asset to you.
Yeah, I missed that in the bio. Sorry about that. Michelle worked for the state, then Michelle worked for Madison County, and then she worked for New Hanover County, and then you came to work for us. So she's got the county and the state kind of background, which really helps us. And Jennifer was the deputy in Buncombe County, which is Asheville, a large county. And so that knowledge of what y'all do every day really helps keep us kind of out of trouble. So sorry, I missed that.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Absolutely. All right, we're gonna go on
Other
now.
questions?
Any more questions on voting? Pretty easy, pretty simple.
I'll throw one in there, just which you may cover. One of the great things that we also saw with the DS200 over the M100 is if a ballot jammed, it was always confusing on whether or not it counted because the M100 wouldn't alert you. This machine does. If a ballot ever jams, it will tell you ballot jam, ballot counted, or ballot jam, ballot not counted. So that way, you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, if I feed it in again, am I reading it twice? So this machine alerts you to that.
Next
Let me ask a question. It's come up, ES&S has a problem in New Jersey, I believe, the double counting machine.
The only thing I know from years ago,
I know
for
this
the
was
new
a
election
recent,
where,
this was,
That was a specific coding issue.
That specific coding.
Yeah, by NAR.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, we're,
what the issue was, because I never done a lot of.
New Jersey has some
When I saw
coding
the
issues
paper,
with those double simple election results.
Yeah, it was coding.
Yeah.
It's a coding issue.
Yeah, so the programming of these are what I hate to call something this expensive a dumb terminal, but for all intents and purposes, without the sticks, this is just it's a counter. So the sticks that are programmed either by the county or by, in your case, us, and that's what our programming staff does in New Bern. They code, every election is different. It gets coded different. It might have a different size ballot. It certainly has different contests on it. Coding is very important. If it's not done right, you can have a New Jersey situation. So we take a lot of pride in, and my wife's one of them. She's a Virginia coder for us, so I get it at home every night about what they do and don't have and what they need. They're communicating with Tawana and her staff and others, sending proofs out. The state's involved with proofing. This process goes back and forth until everybody is sure that the ballots are exactly the way they need to be. And then the last line of defense is the logic and accuracy test that Tom mentioned earlier, which is where Tawana and her staff check our ballots, check the coding, make sure everything's right. The state has a mock election as well. So hopefully before early voting day comes, these things are locked down and sealed and everything's just right. Because guess what? In today's world, if we're not perfect, we're in the paper. So I lose a lot of sleep over what you're talking about. The coding errors drive me crazy, and there's so many people involved with that you wouldn't think it'd ever get to a point where on election day something was messed up. But it can happen if the procedures. North Carolina is very good with their procedures for double checking those things.
I think one big plus of that, the fact that PrintElect handles your coding and your ballot printing is before the election goes out, we test it. So we know before it comes to you, it has already been tested.
How often do you have to update the software in the machine? That's basically the basic software that came with the machine. Does that stay that way for as long as the machine's there?
The software in the office stays the same until we upgrade it through the state. Firmware is.
That's a Glenn question.
The firmware is usually only upgraded if the state has approved an
There's
updated
really
suite.
upgrade. There's a new software like we're going now. We move you guys from Unity to Electionware now. That'll be the only change.
So the process for upgrading software and firmware, which is the software on the unit, obviously, is a federal and state process. It starts with ES&S. Things happen that require changes to software and firmware that may even be out of the control of the vendor in the county. Law changes, things happen. The state says you've got to do this now, and it prompts a firmware. They need the hardware to do something differently. They need your software to do something differently. So we don't control those. However, ES&S, as part of your firmware and software license that you pay them, you get updates as they're needed, free of charge usually, if it's mandated by the state or the federal government. And in some cases, ES&S will come out with improvements to their software and firmware that then have to go and be tested at the federal and state level. So all of those are included in your software and firmware licensing. Hopefully there aren't that many of those needed, but if they are needed, and we do have firmware upgrades and software upgrades from time to time, then those gets federally certified EAC, gets state certified, and then they filter down to us to get with our customers to make those changes.
And those are done, I assume, through thumb drives, not via the internet?
Nothing's done through the internet.
Yeah, good question.
Once questions come up, a lot of people are very concerned that so many of these machines are all tied into the internet somehow.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I heard about talk about the internet. That's been a big question out there for a lot of other companies. First of all, these aren't computers. The computer that you have in your office is closed in from the internet. We actually harden that computer so the firmware, the software, firmware, and the hardware is taken off so you can't ever access the internet from that computer. That computer is solely to be able to work on elections only. So it has no accessibility to the cloud or the internet in any way.
And in fact, the way that the staff here in other counties get their results to the state board of election on election night is usually done on another computer, not on the tabulation computer that reads the sticks as they come in. We harden that, keep it off the internet, and then how they get it to the state is not our deal, but that is done by the internet, I'm sure. So,
well, thanks for the clarification. I think a lot of people have that concern.
Absolutely.
There's nothing inside the tabulator or any of these machines that would even make it physically possible for it to access the internet either through being wired or wireless.
Or there are no modems, none of that stuff.
So it's not like a modem, and
There's no modem.
No
What
modems.
about how does the software do it? Not necessarily the firmware.
Manually.
How does your software to this machine? How does it-
Manually, our techs bring the sticks out and do it on site.
And actually, after this, any work that's done on any piece of equipment in this county, she gets a sheet of exactly what went on that machine and what was performed by the technicians.
How do those come apart and store? Because previously we had the metal box.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that, but I'll go ahead and talk real quick on that.
And
This
we
actual,
stack the boxes on top of each other, so.
They will nest, you can nest
Yeah.
these.
this comes
5 or
off,
6.
you actually can close it down, take this off, and use this as a storage facility if you want to. And then the bottom here, you can nest them, I just wouldn't nest them more than 5 high, but they can be
Makes it
nested.
a little bit hard to get out.
So
Yeah.
this whole upper unit sits in here, this closes, it locks. You take this off and it's got a telescoping hand on wheels.
Okay.
So you can pull it around.
When we close the poles, we can actually take it apart and show you.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
And some people store them just sitting, just like you see now, just close the lid, and others will take them apart.
That's what I'm just trying to kind of.
Either way.
consider how we store them.
It's entirely up to you.
Yeah, a lot of counties, and Noah's right there, a lot of counties now, they've got the units, I think you were the same way when you were in Hope County. This became precinct 1, labeled precinct 1, it's precinct 1 forever.
It just stay together.
And it stays together all the time, and it's just that convenience versus having to go back and put them all back together when you get ready to do your thing. Yeah, it's a great concept. And we do have a collapsible ballot box, but I don't have any customers using it. They like this process, it's more secure.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll move on. Yes, sir?
Is there I know you service, like you said, 3 states or whatever, these machines.
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming that some machines that have had difficulties or just out of age are brought back to you guys for maintenance or upgrade or whatever.
Right.
Is there a log of the machine that goes with the machine? I don't know what machines you're talking about, maybe more county purchases or whatever.
Mhm.
Are we gonna get the new machines, or are we gonna get refurbished machines that may have had issues with log maintenance? Say this was something.
Yeah. So
Something maintained.
all new machines, we wouldn't sell you anything refurbished or used unless that was a request. And, you know,
Right.
ES&S has refurbished and used from trade-ins and other stuff. But no, everything we're proposing here would be brand new. And it would come with a warranty, comes with a bumper-to-bumper 1-year warranty. Then after that, the state of North Carolina requires that counties carry a maintenance contract that provides a preventative maintenance every year and any repairs that are necessary. And part of your question about what do you do with machines when where do they go? We try to do all of our repairs in county as much as possible. And we like to do them during the preventive maintenance. Obviously, that's more convenient for everybody. And a lot of jurisdictions will, if they have a machine or two that something's not, there's a broken piece or whatever, they usually hold them until the preventive maintenance happens and then we fix them all in. However, you don't have to wait to do it then. We can come by and repair a machine or machines at a mutually agreeable time to Tawana and her staff. We've got people running by here all the time. I mean, they're up and down and everywhere, so our techs kind of live out in the field. We can do that. We can take it back to our New Bern depot. We have a full maintenance facility there and a bench and parts, and that's where everything with Tammy's department kind of fires out of, and we can repair them there. We have some directors, they'll put 3 in their car and they'll come to New Bern and we'll fix them that day. County never loses custody. They come back. We like that. We don't like taking possession of our customers' equipment for obvious chain of custody reasons these days. But any of those are possibilities to get your machines repaired. We don't use any third parties. We use only certified ES&S parts that are inventoried and carried in New Bern. When a part goes in a machine, that part number goes on that machine's log. There's a report that prints out that tells Moore County staff what happened. It tells the state board what happened, and it tells us in ES&S what happened. So there are logs on each serialized machine, and the sticks are serialized as well. You can't go buy one of these sticks at Walmart. It won't work in our machine. So all that stuff now has to be tracked and is tracked. So that's a great question. That whole chain of custody, what happened, I can go back and pull up in our system what happened to a machine 3 years ago. It'll say that Glenn Stoudemire worked on it. He changed the paper roll. He put a new stick in it, and it was signed off of by Tawana and him, and that all ends up in our database. We do that for your protection and ours in today's climate. Because people want to know that.
The young lady's question earlier about the tape, I think that was geared toward a chain of custody in case somebody said the machine didn't work at such time properly, and the tape's not missing or not been torn off and taken by somebody.
Right.
How do you match up what's been said versus what might have been? But you said there's also an internal
There is.
record.
Yes.
As well as the tape, so.
Yeah, you have the capability of printing out an entire audit log.
Right.
Yeah.
Good question. Thank you.
All right.
Other questions? If not, we'll move on to
Closing the polls?
close the
One
poll.
quick close here. Okay.
Okay.
So my poll workers, remember, 3 steps to open, right? Plug it in, lift the lids up, code in, right? All right, this is closing. At the end of the night, polls are closed. Chief Judge will walk over, get this key, and there's a little slot right here. Impress, and I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna keep this up because you can do a demo. There's a button on there that says close poll. There's gonna be a prompt on the machines that come and say, are you sure? Absolutely. Polls are closed.
Can I do that?
Well, you can also leave it up if she sticks to do the express, but
Okay.
you can.
No, you know what, you can, let's
I
do it.
love closing the poll.
You close the polls, Owen.
They don't let me touch the machine.
We're trying to have Owen out here with us today, because he doesn't ever get up very often.
Gotta come out and see what they're telling
We're
me.
gonna have
to
his,
do.
And see, you
board
have
of
the
election
dialogue
support
here.
soon.
I want to close the poll, so I push a button and hit one thing on the screen, and that's it, right?
That's it, it's gonna print the results
Okay, all right.
of the ballots that we've already put in.
I did it right.
You did such a good job.
Okay.
A couple of things, real quick while I'm standing here and jumping into your demo here, Tom.
We got 4 sales guys here. There's gonna be a lot
And you
coming at
can't shut us up, we're all like dying
We
to
just
talk.
brought the team out.
The way the paper goes in here, this is a change from the M100. The staff would be very happy to know it doesn't have a spool. It just drops in.
Good point.
So I used to like tear up all my cuticles when I would put the new paper in. There's no more cuticles being torn.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, and after go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
After the polls close, you can, you have report options. Like if there's another report you want to run a write-in report, you want to see the write-in results again, with all the snippets that have the names that are written in, you can do that. Or you can just turn off, you can do that as well. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and reopen the poll because we're going to actually show you how the express vote works and we want to run some of those ballots through. So I'm just going to reopen the poll.
And you can program how many tapes you want if you want more than one.
Yeah, you're getting 2 results that night, get 3, so we can pre-program it ahead of time. No problem.
You really, in most cases, shouldn't have to change the paper roll during an election day because, nobody wants to do that because that freaks a lot of people out. It's easier now that you don't have to spool.
Yeah, we
But-
usually check it right after we do the LNA.
Yes.
To make sure there's enough paper.
You just drop it in. It's so easy. The other thing that we've talked a lot about, and I don't know if we went over like some of your understanding of it, is we talked about the sticks. These are actually the proprietary thumb drives that come from ES&S. They are thumb drives, and the reason that is so fantastic is because with the M100, you've been used to the PCM CIA cards, and they have batteries in them. And those batteries, when the PCM CIA card gets warm, the glue moistens up and the batteries fall out. And that actually, sometimes as poll workers, you've probably seen this. You go to open up on election day and it says no card found. Well, if that battery is not engaged, then it's not going to even know the card is in there. Well, there's no batteries in the thumb drive. So you're never going to have that problem again.
It also has a compartment in the back that you can put another thumb drive in. So, and it writes everything to the backup thumb drive, so you would actually have 2 of them.
So there's a lot of redundancy built into this model that I think would make those problems of old go away.
Will y'all be happy to get rid of the PCMCIA cards?
Yes.
Are they coming apart some, you know?
Well, they don't see it, but normally, yeah, they'll die, so there's a
They've got
little trick
batteries,
that you
yeah.
have to do with a paper clip and try to slide it in, so we'll be glad.
That paperclip is certified, by the way.
Yeah, or a binder clip.
A binder clip,
Yeah, a lot of
yes.
times some of them, the glue over, I mean, they're old, right? And they get heated and get cold, the glue kind of comes off the top of them, and then the connection doesn't get good. So you slide a binder clip on there and they miraculously work again. It's not a good system anymore. And they don't make those cards anymore. Part of the problem with having 15-year-old equipment or anything really nowadays older than 10 years is it's very hard to source parts for. The technology changes so rapidly that the PCMCIA card that we used for the M100, ES&S can't even get new ones anymore. And the last ones they got came from India or somewhere, and they had to order 10,000. So when you have an older version system, Automarks and the M100s, the parts are getting harder and harder to find. And in a lot of cases now, the only way you can get parts is from equipment that's been turned in or traded in by others. And then you got a problem where it's a used part, it's not a brand new part. So you're at the end of your life cycle with the equipment you have, and that's as big a reason to probably look at upgrading as anything. So we've done a real good job, and ES&S is the best in the business about supporting their equipment. And I can tell you, they've supported some equipment that was 25 years old. Some jurisdictions, you know, they like what they like, and they don't want to move forward. In today's world, it's hard to keep a system as long as y'all have any more with technology and the security issues. And every year there's some new security feature that your equipment needs to be able to handle. So, yes, sir.
Is the thumb drive assigned county specific or equipment specific, or can it be utilized in other machines assigned somewhere?
It's a really good question. When the coding is performed, it is, and then the coding is sent to the county elections board. The county has their own suite of thumb drives. And so when they use the software on the computer that's never been on the internet and will never be, they burn the media based on the coding that's in the software. And it actually records the serial number of that thumb drive and equates that to the precinct and the equipment that it's going to be deployed to. So if I'm over somewhere else, and let's just say by some crazy way that I have some data on it and I want to stick it in this machine has been tested by the county board with that serial number. If I come over here and put a different one in, it shuts down. You can't, there's no way, that's the security feature of this system. Yeah, great question.
Yeah, and even from election to election, you know, obviously the coding is different, but then each election has its own encryption. So even if you had one, I've got this one from this election, I'll try to put it in here. Like
It'll
Michelle
shut
said,
down.
it just immediately shuts down.
It goes black screen. Yeah.
We're going to start charging you for good questions.
They are very good.
That's why it's such a.
All right, well, I think we're gonna move on now to the express vote. Jill?
Great, thank you, Tom. That was awesome. These two devices here are express votes, and how many of you know have worked with your AutoMark? Okay, I see some hands here. The AutoMark is super old technology. It had been around a while before it even was brought here. Well, it wasn't brought here in 2006. It was first used, I guess, in North Carolina in 2006. And you guys, we loaned you AutoMark. We rented you AutoMarks when the Ivotronics were decertified. A lot of people don't know why you have to have these other machines, and it's actually because of the Americans with Disabilities Act and the accessibility guidelines for elections. And so, voting system, and a lot of it started out that a lot who already adopted this technology, that they were using it just for voters with disabilities. But now they're actually using it as sort of a fail-safe in case there's something wrong with their ballots, because anyone can vote on these. You don't have to have a disability to use it. The other thing that makes it a distinctive piece of equipment is that it uses these blank express vote cards, and this actually becomes a ballot. You see they're blank because this is thermal paper. So unlike the auto marks, which have consumables that you have to make sure things are working so they can mark the ballot appropriately, these are just blank cards that are maintained. So it could be here in Moore County that you guys just use it for voters with disabilities, and that is perfectly great. A lot of counties just use it that way. But in case of some sort of catastrophe, it is good to know that you have ballots and people can still vote in case something crazy happens, like, there was a truck that was carrying the ballots to a precinct. Something happened and they got destroyed, and the people could still vote that morning because they had an express vote there. So it's a nice fail-safe. There are also some counties that use express vote for all voters. They let all their voters use these ballots, vote on the touchscreen, and then, of course, these ballots are also read by the DS200. So there's different ways that counties configure the use of the express vote, and sometimes it's just for ADA, and sometimes it's for all voters. Sometimes it's just for early voters. They use it. So they don't have to keep up with all the different ballot styles. So there's a wide range of ways that this equipment can be used, is I guess what I'm trying to say. This is also a dummy, and it takes a thumb drive. And once that thumb drive with the election information is on it, then it can actually assist the voter in marking the ballot for that election. This does not retain any tabulation data. It doesn't retain any voting data. Like I said earlier, it's a fancy pen. It's a way that a voter can view the ballot, and I'll show you real quickly. I'm not going to belabor the point here. It's very easy to set up. One of the things we haven't talked about that's different from what you guys are used to is once the coding is done in the software, there is a qualification stick that actually sets the code that Jennifer was talking about for the election on all the equipment that's going to be deployed for that election and any backups. So everything gets qualified, and then it's set up with an election definition in it. So, and I'm going to go through it really quickly, and I hope everybody will come up and vote on one of these so you can see it up close and personal. It has a pad that has directional information. It's in Braille and also different shapes, and headphones that a voter who may be blind or someone maybe who just can't read for whatever reason can listen to the ballot being read at any time. And so that's one of the accessibility features. It also has another port, auxiliary port, for maybe a voter with a disability who comes in and has their own adaptive technology that they want to use. They can actually use this port to navigate the ballot. You can also see here that we can zoom in and make the font larger. Some people have difficulty seeing the screen. We also have this contrast button because it's easier for people with macular degeneration to see white lettering on a black background. So sometimes this is helpful for folks. All they have to do in order to make their selections is select who they want to vote for. If they change their mind, they can just, press wherever the check mark is beside is who they're going to be voting for. Change that because I have trouble seeing it that way. And then you just go through the ballot, and it will not allow you to overvote. So, but if I undervote, let's say this is 2, if I undervote, it actually tells me, okay, you voted for 1, but you could have voted for 2. Do you want to go back and make another selection? Let's say I don't, and I'm going through here. Has the ability for write-in, and it's a regular QWERTY keyboard that everyone's used to. And so we'll go through there, and we'll put a write-in again, and then keep going. And so, yeah, it's definitely hard to see from back there, so come up and give it a shot.
That takes care of that problem of not being able to read what somebody wrote.
Exactly.
That's why a lot of board members like using this for early voting, because they don't have to adjudicate or decipher. Yes?
voter, I'll have to choose what ballot, if there's different ballot styles, they have to know, or?
No, that's actually a fantastic question. So, this paper would be held by a poll worker. They would walk them over to the express vote and insert it and select the proper precinct or ballot style for them. We are gonna show you later on that there's another step that we have in place that would eliminate the need for a poll worker to do that. But Jennifer will be talking about that in a little bit. But if you didn't have that, you would have a poll worker insert the ballot, select the proper information, and then step away and let the voter vote the ballot. So it's, like I said before, it's thermal, so there's no consumables. And it goes right into the ballot bin, and you can insert it backwards, forwards, upside down. And it's read by the DS200. So even though it's marked over here on this fancy pen, it still goes into the DS200 tabulator like any other ballot. It's just the method that the voter would be using. It's super easy for poll workers to set up. It just has a side door lock. You just turn it on in the morning, and you have a code, which is going to be the same code that they use for this, and then it's on and ready to go. Yes, ma'am.
If you're doing a manual count of ballots, does that little piece that you just put in there, does it have things written on it, or?
It does. It does. It's a readable ballot. So if you do a manual hand-eye, you can read what the selections were. The other good question that made me think about was if you're trying to figure out how many, like the voters who have voted versus how many ballots have been issued, that your ballot adjudication. You can actually, it's not on there right now, but there's a button that's on the screen at any time of day. You can select that, and it says how many actual ballots, like full face ballots, and how many express vote ballots have been inserted. So it does that count for you. Yes.
When you have some of these very long ballots, that piece of paper is not as large as all of the ballot questions, et cetera. So you can put separate additional pieces of paper.
No, it is as long. The length of this is always going to be the same length of this ballot. What prints on here is only the selections that the voter has made. So, and it goes up to what, 20?
Yeah, so ballots can get longer. Was it 20 inches or 22 inches? 22, up to 22 inches long. That's a 14-inch long ballot, which is normally what we have in North Carolina. But there's some states that have 2 ballot pages and 22 inches, if you can imagine that, printed both sides. But the express vote cards also come in a longer length as well.
But I think you answered the question. It only shows what the voter chose.
Yes, it doesn't
have all the
entire
instructions and all the other.
Because all of that is on the screen. So what prints out on the card is just the information that the voter has selected. But
It's actually easier to recount, hand count those than it is a regular ballot. Because it's just showing you what they selected, not all the folks they didn't select.
I can see the first time using those, if you did them like I assume you've got pre-printed instructions that we can have available. But you're also going to need probably somebody to walk us through the first time, like we've got municipal elections coming up. Because people are going to look at that and go, holy cow. Yet after you've done it, I have a feeling they're going to say, I like this better, because if I screw it up, this tells me I screwed it up. And they're going to go back.
Well, it's similar to your automark screen, just like the automark you've been using. So it's selections, the pad, hearing, everything is the same as the automark. The only thing changed when we dropped it down about 30-some pounds.
Well, it's got a smaller ballot.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this if we wanted to use it as devoted for everybody to use, not just for the 88 people. No,
And there's a lot of counties that do that. Mecklenburg, Clemens,
Davidson, Jackson, Cherokee. Yeah, there's several. And the whole
I
state
don't
of
have
South
concerns
Carolina.
within the technology, that's the way it is.
But once they do it, they're going to be like, oh, that was really nice.
And it's really nice for the board, the board members and we've even had several who've gone from using paper for early voting to using these for early voting. And the board members, we just went to a district meeting and people who did it were just like, board members, like, everybody should be doing this. It is wonderful.
Yeah, that's usually where the movement is. There are a lot of folks that are utilizing it for ADA purposes, but for early voting as well. And then they're using this solely on election day. Of course, one of those will be there for ADA voters as well. But it is, ES&S has done studies on this. You would think that the older voters would prefer paper over touchscreen, but quite frankly, the older vote, it's easy enough to use. The older voting crowd actually likes it as well. It's not just the young folks that want to do all the digital stuff, so.
And the instructions for how to use the ballot are always being read. And so what's also really nice is even if they can see, to have the accompanying instructions being read to them. See, I'm in here, I'm talking to me now. To go, it's telling me everything I need to do to use the machine and about the ballot. So.
The other thing that really engages folks to use this for early voting is because in your early voting sites, you have to have every ballot. So there's a ballot inventory. You got a box, style number 1, style number 2. If you go to precinct ID, then you'll exponentially even have more boxes. So they're having to inventory ballots to keep up with them, to make sure your poll worker pulls the right ballot from the right box. All of that is eliminated with this.
You just have this blank stock.
You
And
just
the
have
best
the blank
thing about
stock.
that, yeah, you just have the blank stock.
Yeah.
What you don't use for this election, you box this up and you can
Well,
continually use it.
one reason you see a lot of counties going countywide, ballots are a lot more expensive than a blank.
Well, you didn't have to say that. Do you not realize we're in the ballot printing business?
Well, and records and retention as well. I mean, if it's gonna be
Thanks, Tom.
a small election, and
True.
you're having to print all these ballots, and many of them are not gonna be used, but you still have to retain the unvoted ballots for 22 months. These, you only retain what you use, and so, environmentally, I don't know what happened. Environmentally, it's a better option too.
Do you have plastic to put on the earphones?
Yes.
We do, yes.
Safety covers.
Each
Yeah.
person gets some.
Yes. Yeah, and any headset will work too, like if somebody has their own earbuds and they want to use them, they can. As long as it goes into an auxiliary. And the other thing I was going to show you about this, because we have poll workers here and it's important to them, this is the storage carrying case versus Automark. How nice, right? You carry it like that. It fits right down in there. It's soft, and you could just carry it around like this, and it's not bad at all. It's much better than the Automark, much improved. So,
Guess I should.
and then at the end of the night, when you're done with the express vote, you just turn it off and put it back in the bag. I mean, it doesn't contain any votes, it doesn't contain any information, just return it however the board tells you, and that's it. It's a great little device. And so if we want to move along,
We can take a few more questions. The last thing I'll say is that the disabled community likes being able to put their ballot in the same tabulator as everybody else. So even though it's a different size ballot and you're voting on these, they like knowing that their vote is with a non-disabled voters in the same box and it's all tabulated on the same tape. They really like that. They want to get singled out.
And another really neat thing about them is, you get questions. It's like, once it prints out your selections, it's like, how do you know that's what is actually marked on it? You can actually take an express vote card that has voted and either feed it back into the same machine or a different machine, and then it shows you on the screen, it gives you another review of how that express vote card is marked.
Yeah, that's a very good point. After it prints it out, you can literally put it back in and it'll show you again on the screen what's on that card. So that's a second step of it's like almost a two-factor verification. So, very good point. Any questions for Michelle on the express vote? Yes, ma'am.
If you put it back in the machine to look at it, you can't change it.
no.
No, just to see.
And
Good question.
And if it's wrong, you would just spoil it like you would any other ballot and let the voter try again.
You would spoil the piece of
Yes.
paper and put it in a spoiled ballot.
Mhm.
Yeah, you would treat it just like you would a full ballot, just a full face ballot.
So since Tom brought up so eloquently the point that this eliminates paper ballots, printed paper ballots that we love,
I'll also say another feature is with these express vote stock, you're only printing and using the exact number of voters you had to vote on these because they're blank. They are reusable. And with paper ballots, if you like your auto marks, Tawana orders however many ballots she has to order. And if she's smart, she's ordering a lot more than she needs. Because running out of ballots is, and there's some state administrative code says you got to order a certain amount. But what happens is you waste a lot of ballots. You have them left over at the end of the day. They're blank printed ballots, and you probably pay 20 cents a piece for them. With this, you only print the exact number. And then if you have packs left over, guess what? If they're shrink wrapped or whatever, you can use them for the next election. So it's that's a pretty important feature if you're looking at your ballot printing costs. Right?
Yes, very much so. Do you want to do the DS450 next, or do you want to do the BOD and Express Vote printer next, since we're already talking about Express Votes?
Yeah, let's go ahead to Jennifer and let her do that. And at the end of the day, y'all forget to talk about the software upgrade. We forget about software. We're here showing you a bunch of expensive hardware. But it's really important to know that our new software suite comes along with this equipment.
Yeah.
And it's you're in Unity now, which was developed in the late 90s. Electionware is the new suite or software suite that runs all this and ties it all together, and it's quite important to the staff.
It's important to the staff, and it's also important to make this point, which is because you are on Unity, and that's an ES&S software suite. You don't actually have to buy a software package. We upgrade you to Electionware. You do need to purchase another computer and printer to go with that. That's hardened with all the new security regulations. So we can do that for you, but that's the only cost because you're already a customer and you're already using our software. It's really considered a free upgrade.
It comes with your licensing that she pays every year on the Unity. That is a big point because our competitor's software that you would have to buy if you move from us is how much, ladies? $45,000 to $70,000, somewhere in that range. You've already purchased ours, and the only thing you have to do is buy a new computer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. So Jennifer Sparks is our BOD and Express Poll and Express Vote printer expert, and she's going to talk to you about some very exciting things that you might be able to use to make all of this work more efficiently for you.
Yes, so, excuse me, I'm very excited to show you, I get to show the perks that, and the add-ons that could possibly go with the new equipment. As they said previously, in Buncombe County for 10 years, we had 20 early voting sites. We were the first in the state to use ballot on demand at our early voting sites. This is similar to the express vote, where if you use this during early voting, you only purchase blank stock. Also, as Owen pointed out, as ballots get more complicated, the more precincts you have sometimes, you have to worry about what ballot you select during early voting to give the voter. You don't have to with this. We've worked with the State Board of Elections. This works with SEAMS, which is the statewide voter registration system. So as you all are used to, if you use SOSA during early voting, once you hit issue, this actually prints out the ballot that the voter needs. Not only does it print out the ballot that the voter needs, it will also overlay the voter number on it, which is the number that you all are used to writing on the top of the ballot. And it will also print the precinct. So that eliminates several things. When you go to do your 30-day sort, sometimes you run across ballots, it's like, somebody's forgot to write that number on it, or they wrote the number, but they didn't write the precinct. So now you're like, okay, what precinct do I allocate that? This also eliminates not only giving the voter the wrong ballot, but then the voter is not seeing you write on their ballot. Yeah, which if we worked in the polls, we all know how that can go. That is one way that this is utilized. Another way because it works with the early voting, it also does work with your absentee. There is a process, a lot of people, this is used now in about 40 counties in North Carolina in various ways. Some just have one unit that they keep in their office for absentee. Seams does produce a file that then you upload into the software, and it will print your ballots, your CIV numbers, and everything in the same order as your labels. So when you're going to put everything together, this ballot goes with this label, everything's in the same order. Also, it's used just for emergency purposes. It doesn't have to do overlays. So, as Owen pointed out, you always want to order more than you have to, but in case you don't, you get the heavy turnout in a precinct and they call you at 2 o'clock and they're like, we only have 50 ballots left. You can come to this, print however many you need, and then deploy that to the precinct. So it's really good to have just as a backup. The software that comes with this obviously is similar to what you deal with now with your voter registration system. Everybody has a username. Each election is different. It keeps track of everything that you print, what time it's printed, who printed it, what ballot style you printed. So you definitely have your audit capabilities with this. So it's a really great system. The state has purchased 14 counties in the state have this system, similar to how they've deployed the high-speed scanners. So if something happens, there's always the capability of printing emergency ballots, usually within an hour to an hour and a half from a county. So know that there is that option as well.
Do you know how many ballots it can print within a certain time?
It can print roughly like 40. Anywhere, it depends on the ballot. Yeah, obviously, anywhere between 35 to 50.
An hour?
No, not an hour. No, it'll print 35 to 50 in about 10, 15
Yeah, I
minutes.
just wanted to.
It depends whether double-sided, single-sided like that. But yeah, anywhere from 30 to 45.
So,
For 5 to 10 minutes.
like Jennifer said, this is great to have in your office as a backup, if for no other reason. For the reasons that she said, somebody runs out of ballots in precinct 7 and it's an hour to garner and it's 2 hours to New Bern, but it's a lot quicker from Election Central if they only need 50 or so. That is not made to print hundreds and thousands of ballots.
Right.
Mainly because it's expensive. People don't realize they think they're printing their own stuff, but by the time you put the drum and the toner and the cost of it, and by the way, what we sell is the exact same paper we print your other ballots on.
Right.
We use ES&S as certified milled count right stock. That's all we use. It's a little more expensive. We could use other stock that's very similar to that, but we don't because the ES&S has some characteristics in the paper, contrast, and I won't bore you with the specs, but we stick with the ES&S count right, and that's what we sell for the BOD as well, so that we don't have any read problems. We don't want, if you put a 28-pound copy paper in there, you can probably print a ballot out. It may not read, or it may, but it's going to screw, because these are geared toward that particular paper. There's settings in here, we call them back settings, but that's great for the office. In some of the counties, including my own home county, Craven County, they use these in early voting. When I go in early voting, they check me in, the poll book, and then I go over to a printer station that's got 2 of those, and 2 ladies over there, and they do this, and boom, I've got a ballot. So, they use it for early voting and absentee, and then they, of course, use the regular printed ballots.
Yeah, the regular printed ballots. One thing that this really helps during early voting, obviously if you have multiple early voting sites, it's always hard. How many of this style needs to go to this early voting site and how many of this style needs to go to this one? This eliminates that, which was, like I said, my experience in the past. That was really nice not having to try to figure out, because we had 100,000 voters, but where do they show up? Yeah, so that eliminates that possibility.
And the paper is reusable as well for the next election, just like the Express.
Just like the Express vote is.
Absentee ballots.
Mm-hmm.
How, you're not gonna have that available, for people that are overseas, like them to do things via the computer. How do we process absentee ballots, or will they be the same like our traditional ballots right now, That'll stay the same for absentees, so it'll be the big normal ballots that will be processed once we receive them in.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah, that is correct. And if a county has this system, the state has procedures in place. You heard everybody talking about logic and accuracy testing beforehand. So it's required if you do use a ballot on demand solution that you print ballots from here, and then that's incorporated into your logic and accuracy. So that if you do have to print ballots and you have to send them out, you know they're going to work in that tabulator. So that becomes incorporated into your LNA testing. Yeah. All right, so not only have we worked with the state to have this work with SOSA and SEAMS, we now have this little guy, the Express Vote Printer, and this now also works with the software, the state software. I don't have access to the state software, so I'm just going to simulate what it can do. There's actually two different ways you can use this. There's a manual mode, and this is super hard to see, so I hope everybody comes up and looks to see how this works. But if you have this and it is connected to your check-in stations, again, once you hit the issue, it'll ask, you can have it set up to where, okay, do you want to use an Express Vote card, or do you want to print a full-face ballot? If you have the option of using the Express Vote card, it goes ahead and it prints the voter's ballot style information on the top. Therefore, that eliminates a poll worker having to take the Express Vote card over to the machine and select the proper ballot style. It's already printed here, and when they automatically put it in the Express Vote, it brings up the corresponding ballot style for the voter needs.
It reads the barcode, and then it brings up the ballot style the voters.
That's associated with that voter.
Now, if you're doing the Express Vote without that printer, you have no voter code or anything on that piece of paper?
You have to put it on.
You have to put it on there. I'm currently working with the state board now to have that incorporated in that, so fingers crossed, hopefully by November, if not the primary, then that information will also, that corresponding information would also be put on there, so you wouldn't have to write it on somewhere.
November 23. It is a
Yes.
state.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why I said hopefully. But yeah, I'll work really closely with state board staff, Brooks mainly, to be able to have our equipment integrated with it. So.
Okay, so I missed something here. If I come and I register, and I say, okay, my name, et cetera. Normally now we get authorization to vote. Did we eliminate the authorization to vote?
No, that process is exactly the same.
Okay.
So you still issue the ATV and the voter signs it. So there's two steps in that process. There's issue and there's vote.
Okay.
So when you hit issue, the ATV prints, but then the ballot won't print until you actually hit vote. Yeah.
And then I saw it in use of the Johnson campaign. It worked really well. The warning and the lines or anything on it. Yeah, and I was like, wait a minute, they're printing ballots here. And I asked the lady if I could get on the table.
It's magic ballots.
Yep.
I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, and this also gives counties the opportunity, like the Express Vote does, to code by precinct. Because, and eliminate the 30-day count, because you're not dealing with so many ballots that a one-stop worker has to be able to pull to make sure they get. So if you have this, then it just prints it as you need it. And similar to the Express Vote, whatever you don't use, you store it for the next election.
No waste.
Yep.
Out of humidity and hopefully shrink wrap.
You have to have one of the, call it a check-in machine, or what do you call it?
Yeah, this would be like a SOSA or over laptop.
Would you have one for each precinct then?
That's up to the county. You could have like both of these set up on one check-in. So if somebody just specifically wanted to use the Express Vote, they would go to that station. You could have one connected to each one. These are a little different. These, you can have multiple stations
going to one printer, so you can use it two ways. You can have a one-to-one system where everything's done with the voter, or you can have these at a separate table, kind of like what Owen was describing as a ballot station, and somebody would be distributed based on that ATV number.
Maybe I'm confusing this. I was under the understanding that the typical way to use, what do you call, this prints out ballots for you, is you'd have it back at the pier, at the office, you'd only have one of them.
Yes,
Unless you were to adopt a system where you have these
in early vote, yeah,
Yes.
in
So,
early voting.
but you could, but the check-in portion, you could do that separate and not
Yes.
have that.
Oh, yes, yeah, absolutely. Or you can have either or. You could have a check-in with just this, or a check-in with just this, or both.
Or if you had a precinct where you only expected 100 voters, it might be
Exactly.
superfluous to have.
Yes, exactly. And the way I like to describe it too is if I have this system and I'm gonna deploy it, I'm not gonna deploy it to a precinct that has 5,000 voters and you only have to give them one stop. Because you can hand those out all day and not worry about handing the wrong one. I'm gonna put this in a precinct that has 500 voters and 5 different stops. So, yeah.
Or worse.
Yeah.
With all the splits now, and with precinct ID and the need to take early voters and put them back in the precinct, they would have voted on election day for purposes after the fact for candidates, politicians, advocates, whatever, to see who voted from what precinct they were. This sorting in all process lends itself to this type of automation. Otherwise, all that's being done by hand, and you have to keep up with all these ballots. It's just gotten to a point now that you really need to do that sorting that she was talking about, that they have to do by law. Do it on election day and do it during early voting, and then all you do is hit a button and it prints the report out.
So my only question about this, which sounds like if properly coded is a great system,
Right.
is, and again, not to belabor a point, but the New Jersey situation sounds like there was a coding issue.
Right.
Front.
Right.
It would seem, you don't want a garbage in, garbage out situation.
Right.
But what fail safes are there to make sure that the coding of these is absolutely going to be?
It's the same thing.
It's all the same code.
It's all the same coding, and then, I don't start the setup for the VOD system until everything is signed off on, the coders. I don't do any setup until everything I know is tested in Newberg. And then, like I said, once I get that and program the VOD system, then the county prints ballots and incorporates that into, like I said before, into their LNA testing.
Is that done in conjunction with our staff to make sure that?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yes, here's
Yes.
what we're suggesting, we review it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
We have-
yeah, absolutely.
We have Tawana and the state both sign off proof, like you would a printing proof. They're the last ones to say that looks right, that's right. And then they have a fail safe in that they get in LNA and see something that everybody missed. And I've seen it where the state missed it. The state has a whole team of proofers that they put in Raleigh that we send our coding to. They look at it, they sign off on it, they might make corrections, they might want to do this, that, or other. Comes back to us. Sometimes it goes back multiple times. And at the same time, it's going to Tawana and her staff. So we're all working together. But even in some cases with that, sometimes more eyes aren't better. I mean, there are mistakes that get made. They're usually caught in LNA.
Well, that's what I'm saying, maybe, I mean, I don't know the laws in New Jersey, but they may not do the LNA like we do. So to me, a coding mistake would have been caught
Yes.
when we do our logic and
You would think.
accuracy.
Yeah.
You would think.
Because it's happened to us where we've had to go back to the coder and say.
And make changes.
Yes.
There is a huge interaction between the state, the county, and our staff during the coding process. And then all kinds of strange things happen where the state holds up coding because there's a lawsuit, or this candidate has dropped off, or we've had candidates, that actually deceased. And then, there's all kinds of things. And then it seems like every year more and more now, the lawyers are getting involved, and we're always waiting on coding because of something we're waiting on at the state. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of fail safes there. The one point I wanted to make to you is Jennifer on the BOD system, she doesn't change the coding at all. All she's doing is taking the file that we finally sent to her. It's been approved by everybody. And all she does is take that coding and incorporate it in the BOD software. But she's not making any coding. She knows better than that.
Yes.
When the coding gets locked down, I won't allow anybody to change anything, for obvious
It will
reasons.
come from them, it'll come to us, then Amy will look into it, and if there's an issue, then Amy goes back to the code.
Right.
If we need to.
Right.
But ExpressVote is a standalone system. It does not need this,
No.
correct? However, if you wanted to use that, then you can take that ballot and insert it in there and use it. So it's kind of a redundant system or with a separate capability that you described that may or may not be needed.
Right, yeah. Like I said, I get to show like the add-ons, like, so if, once upgraded to this, 2 years down the road, oh, well, let's add some ExpressVote printers, or let's add a BOD system. You have the capability to expand and do additional things.
Are you going to talk about ExpressVote? Because I see this, I'm kind of curious about that. I'd like to change that, so. I'm just curious.
We would have had to extend the building, I think. We've got a whole suite here.
No, I will say we're currently working on with the state for poll book certification.
So you're still working with the certification?
Yes, still working for the certification.
They don't have a certification process.
So they have to write.
They're writing the process now. There's a state poll book that probably y'all use. But they, for 20 years, I've been asking them to write a certification protocol for poll books because ES&S has a poll book. The whole state of South Carolina, all 46 counties has our ES&S poll books here and we love it. But here, we're not certified because there's no process. I did talk with the state director earlier in the week, and she says that they have a red line of the certification for poll books and that they're hoping to present that to their board and get some process. But
And those do work with this as well.
and then we'll bring it and show it to you. We're not supposed to show anything that's not currently certified.
I noticed it wasn't there, but I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah.
It looks like
We probably shouldn't even put that
North
in
Carolina
there.
needs to talk to South Carolina, so how do you guys do your certification?
Yeah.
That's actually, they use Virginia's.
Whichever.
Yeah, they went to another state and kind of copied it. That's where all the red lines are. They're just changing the things.
I'll talk a little bit too about the security, we've talked about the security features of the DS200 and the ExpressVote. So ES&S specifically worked with Brother. You'll probably notice this is a Brother 6400. You can go to Office Max and buy one. But if you do that, it will not work with this system. There is a specific version of firmware that ES&S worked with Brother to do. If you go buy one off the shelf, it won't print over 14. It won't duplex. This can print up to a 22-inch ballot. The security features here, whenever you guys come up, the settings screen is locked. So your poll workers, you know how they are. Sometimes you get bored, you start mashing buttons. You can't mash buttons. You can't mash buttons. I know how slow elections go. It also, the way that it connects during early voting, it comes with a router with 2 sets of firewalls on it. So if you go that direction, that's something that I work closely with IT departments on how that's incorporated. It does have 2 ports in the back, a network port and a printer port. The printer port is disabled. The USB is also disabled. So nobody can come and just plug something in and have access to it.
That's very good. So, like, say at early voting, they would come into the registration desk, they'd register, they'd get their ATV. Would the process then, and I know this probably varies on county, be to take that ATV over, and then there's a separate computer that they enter that information into?
No, the ballot would print, and then it would be like a ballot station. Somebody that runs a ballot station, they get the ATV, they pick the ballot. They would have the ballots that were printed, and they would just need to make sure.
So the printer talks to the registration.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It talks to SOSA. And some counties do it differently. Some do use it as a ballot distribution station. Some counties have the check-in and the printers down here, and it's shared between 2 check-ins. And once the ballot's printed, the voter signs the ATV, gives it back to you, you turn around, and the interaction is completely all with one person. Yeah. And that's just something if the county decides to go that direction. that's something that I can work with them to see what flow do you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions about VOD and Express Book Printer? No, okay. So the last thing that we brought today is our central count, our DS 450. Lots of counties have purchased these. They work in conjunction with all of our other equipment. The state has purchased many of these that are distributed throughout the state and are for use for any of our customers who are using our system. So this is something, if you guys upgrade to this equipment, you would actually have access to this for recounting or for any other things that might be going on that you would need it for.
It just runs ballots faster.
It's just a fast counter.
And you can see as it's scanning, the great thing about it is any ballots that are not counted, it doesn't stop, it throws them into the top bin. If you have write-ins, it throws them to the second bin, so you're not having to worry about sorting write-ins.
These really get popular during recounts. And we have another unit that runs them even faster.
This was right about 90 ballots a minute, and we do have one going to certification soon that does 200.
200.
We would, again, it's not certified here yet, but it's called a DS9. It's twice as much money, but runs 3 times faster.
And it's bigger.
Yeah, it's a little taller.
It's about 2.
It's hidden.
Well, that's state money, so it's out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then, I mean, ES&S has done a great job of coming out with this because the 850 and that currently is really popular in large counties. Like, Wake, we had 2 in Buncombe, but it wasn't cost-wise for a mid-sized county. It's like, well, I don't want to take that leap. So they come out with the 450 that doesn't hardly run as fast, but still can really help out like mid-sized counties. And you can see here, it actually tells you how many total ballots it run, how many's in the bottom bin, how many's in the middle, and it tells you the top bin, and you can hit the magnifying glass, and it'll tell you why it didn't read it.
Has the state purchased any for 950?
Not yet. And they're certified, and I don't know if they'll do that or not. They purchased BOD printers and high-speed tabulators like this in an effort to protect the state from issues. Somebody runs out of ballots, or we've got a lot of recounts. These machines, I mean, if you've got, let's just say, 60,000 votes that you have to recount in Ward County, it takes a while to run them on these one at a time. Especially on the M100, this one's even faster. But sticking them in one at a time, what we will do for you is we rent them and we'll staff them. We'll send the machines to you and we'll do your recount for you with a high-speed scanner that we own or ES&S owns. We offer that service too. Some counties just want them there. The larger counties want them for absentees. The initial drop of an absentee in Mecklenburg County might be 35,000 ballots. So when there's no way to read all those ballots on election day in a scanner. You gotta have, and they've got how many of these things?
They've got 3.
They've got 3, and that's how they run their absentees. Otherwise, they never get the results on election night, for sure.
So then does it print out a tape?
Yeah. Yeah, and we have the capabilities printed out.
So it's got an audit printer and a laser printer for reports.
How do you load that?
What load?
On the top shelf right
Yeah,
there.
you
Oh,
put
yeah,
it on
yeah.
the top. Yeah, going back in.
So you just put a stack up there and just push a button?
Yep, push a button, and this just has 1 precinct, but like for your 30, a lot of people like these for their 30-day sort because you don't have to set up all different kinds of DS200s. You have the ability of what's in the coding called an all poll. So I can run precinct number 1. Okay, precinct number 1's done. Hit select precinct number 2, put precinct 2 on it. You don't have to switch out the sticks and reprogram it every time. It has the capability of handling all the precincts.
Other questions? Thank you, Jeff. So I'll close, and then we'd like for y'all to come up and kick the tires, take her for a test drive. What do you want to do? Ask as many questions as you'd like. What I would like to say in closing is that it's pretty evident that what we have here are experienced people. These folks have done what they do, and that's very important to me. Jennifer, all of them have worked in either with me forever. There's 110 years, don't hold this against us, 110 years of elections experience here, me being the oldest. And that presentation and her background in the county, her background at the state, her background in field services for 21 years, it permeates through PrintElect, and that's what we feel like sets us apart from our competition. You will not get this kind of presentation from our competitors here. They'll send one person in and he comes from Illinois, and that's all you get. We brought you everything. I hesitate to bring all the equipment because it can be a little overwhelming, but you need to know what your choices are. And bringing the 450 and letting you know that the state has some of these, showing you the BOD, talking about the poll book, we've got all of that. What you're most interested in is this, obviously, because that's going to count everybody's ballot, whether it's marked on that or marked in a voting booth, it's going to go through here. But to show you the rest of this shows our go forward technology and the things you can add on anytime you want to as things change. So appreciate y'all having us. Hope that we've given you most of the information you need, and we'll hang around for a little while and answer any questions that you might have. Hope you have a nice weekend. Enjoy the weather.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just glad I didn't trip. The next years, they're supposed to be jumping up and
that had gone to just basically seeing, I've never seen any technology between water and field.
Yes.
Where that's a product when they were oh, wow. Yes, the lever machine. Yes.
So when we do a precinct, we take our door machine and we just switch the cards in the M1. So we're not using all 26 tabs.
So you just take the card out, put a new card in, and it's ready to go.
Yeah, we usually just do the precinct. So maybe yeah, so there's one key unlocks all of them. So would you like this one? Try that one. That one.
Yes, what I just did now is I just inserted a blank. Ah, yeah.
The whole system has been
And they would have to go to the ETV, and they would go check.
Yeah, this would be, well, it would just she's used that kind of stuff.
As we're talking, I guess
Well, we not only holds 2,500, right? So I guess it depends.
It's a vacation thing, but once you're through the process,
I guess. But here's my question, where's the people in the suitcases? They're in the suitcase, nobody knows they're really in there.
I want to give myself an
Yeah. I just feel like this is sitting out.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you having in the county. That knowledge base helps us in they know the law too. They know the statutes and they work in counties and precincts to know what the issues are. Right. Yes. Well, we are in state. That makes a big difference because we're the only vendor in North Carolina that is a North Carolina-based vendor. That's not to say that ES&S, who has 400 employees in Omaha, Nebraska, They can help too, but we've got somebody like in ours. Well, we've had a good run in Ward County. I think it has Linda, she was great, but I'll tell you what she was. She was also hard. We did.
Schroeder was going to be here today because he's on every.
This is what I want on election day.
That was a priority of those. A lot of counties
Continue on your recovery.
Thank you. You have a blessed day. Been a long journey.
Since 92, we're one of the last ones. He said there were 7 people,
We have 2 more, I think, 100 accounts left, everybody else already upgraded. The thing now is that a lot of upgrades, a lot of more. It's just the other one. It is technology now.
So you got Moore County, you got Watauga County, Boone, that's still on the same equipment you're on. And then you have 2 counties out in western North Carolina, Clay maybe, and another that have M100s and all their parts. Y'all are by far the largest account left that hasn't upgraded. And Watauga, I think the wheels will fall off of the system in Watauga County before they ever move, but and probably wait for the state to decertify it. What will happen eventually with the older equipment? At some point, we'll go to the state and say, we can't get parts, we're worried, we can't get the pieces, and they'll decertify.
At some point, you gotta rip that point.
So y'all got a lot of bang for your buck, because if you remember, the equipment that you have now was purchased with the HOBO funds, the Help America Vote Act, after the punch card debacle. So everybody in America got a free system. So the system you have has been very economical for Moore County and anybody that's used it. But at some point, you got to trade the car in.
Thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys coming by today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
We really only have one salesman. No, I'm talking about you.
Yeah, so I found 3 of those.
It's about as good as it gets. You know, we're showing everything. Those things are getting shared. I mean, she's getting better. So she went through this with Mac Beasley. They don't need us. They can't offer this kind of service. They can't even put this kind of presentation. If that didn't open her, then she ended up coming over to the facility and seeing our facility. And I think that kind of put her back in the box. Like, you can't beat the joy. Next to her sister, back in and make money and still get paid on what PrintElect does. I'm like, I can do that. I ain't even in town. Well, when's Karen gonna get there? You know, I think it's coming along, but it's painful to get over that. I mean, she's been here. And she still says things, you know, from time to time. She should say. I mean, I talked with Judd Ryan, who's Mac's boss, Max Kara's boss. I talked with Judd yesterday, you know, just about some things. And, you know, I said how things are going. And I don't complain to the last year.
It does, but those are so hard to find now.
I told him, I said, listen, she likes taking the state with folks and kind of like have a little one-on-one. She calls Karen and then tells she calls Karen.
Maybe it's red.
Yes, sir. Hey, good. How about you?
That's fine. Yeah.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I am from here. Yeah. Born and raised here. Oh, very well. Buzzy. Yeah. Buzzy's retired. Fine.
I got to know.
Yeah. John. Yeah. I know John.
I know John.
And John and Charlotte.
He's in Charlotte.
Yeah. How about that? Yeah. I think a lot of Mr. Stubbs. He is a very kind and generous man. Had a career bankruptcy law. I saw him at his event in January. He didn't look too good. Yeah, he had his wife with him, and he didn't seem like it was the same Buzzy. So I don't know what's going on with him, but I've heard he's slowing down. Hell, he's been working up for the last couple of years. I mean, yeah. I got you. Yep. He doesn't like driving. He likes riding. And while he's riding, he works and gets on the phone. Oh, he's billing people. I mean, if he's in the car, you're still have to be getting billed if you're one of his clients. For sure. Oh, yeah. Back and forth to here, and he had somebody driving him to the road. Man, what's your name again? I'll tell, when I see him, I'm sure he'll remember. I'll tell him. Big black man. Well, you don't have any compromising motives. Mr. Stubbs, he's been known to get in trouble. He was younger.
Yeah, so, yeah. It has been presented
Yeah, you probably won't ever make it to court. I'm with you. I knew. Well, when you associated yourself with Mr. Buzz, I knew right then you couldn't be all there. You know, and I also knew right then. Obviously, pretty excited to have the governor.
Oh, send it, yes,
So she was always, you know what, she was kind of right there in the middle.
There is.
She's very kind. We go to the same church. Yeah, Christ on this one. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, two kids married. My great grandfather was one of the original.
Yes.
Yeah, what is she doing?
We need to talk. I mean, you know, we just got, not just a privilege. Like I said, we just got more than we thought we were getting. Well, we just got there after all this. We need to talk. Yeah, we need to go back to the streets.
It kind of makes common sense.
Till we need to get back and get our voices together. Can we do it Monday morning or you gonna?
People sometimes just.
Or Monday?
Well, it's very nice to meet you. Appreciate you coming. Oh, that's right.
So that's why it's gotta get a smaller.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Especially Pennsylvania.
That's a good point. They are getting
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, no.
Oh, well, no.
Okay. Okay, I know, I do. Thank you.
I love you. I love you too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love you too. We're doing all right. Taking care of our moms. How's yours?
Oh, yeah. It's always.
You know what I mean? But I can't say plastic.
It's the ground game. It's kind of like saying, good defense, good offense every time. Good ground game. Really make it happen.
Big guys in the front, yeah. Of what we would
It's easy.
Yeah, and I'll mention that.
I'm gonna go ahead and say.
Yeah, quick huddle and just throw that guy off.
Or you can take them out, you take them out.
Chuck it done. I like it.
Take care.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Yes.
Always really nice meeting you guys. Everybody asks.
If we would only change, there is no storage, the county has to figure out.
No, I gotta put notes with it. These things does have,
Agencies.
these sealed seals, when you take them out to the precinct, it's designed out for that.
Internally.
I never thought about
All of that, so we'll see how it goes.
What
What is the lead time on all of this? Let's say we wanted to buy the full deal.
You go at it for 2 years in a row, sell a bunch of stuff, and then the next 2-3 years it's slow.
I got the 300.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Contracting people. Well, we've got to get the presentation together. They also have yesterday now. We're in March. As soon as that's done.
It's got to,
And the
because
staff
security.
get together what they want. You know, in a perfect world, not so perfect, in real world.
Reality.
Yeah, and then we figure out, talk to the commission, what they're really fine. I don't think it's gonna be a problem. Storage to me is gonna be our biggest issue. That, we're gonna need secure storage, but first year, people are gonna have problems, but once they get into the system, it's like, hey, this is easy, I like it. Okay, thank you again, Michelle, appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, I'll tell you, VOD lead time is a little bit more than just.
She would like this for absentee ballots. Some people do it all online, but a lot of people, they want the real ballot mailed to them, and so that would be good for the absentee ballots.
And then if you have it for absentee,
How do you like your little computer thing that still has to be, hadn't been certified? In North Carolina.
the poll book,
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah, I assume that.
I'm impressed
Where's
with
the
it.
data download from? From our systems or from a statewide system?
It would come from the statewide system and then it would go to ES&S over a secure SFT site. And they create everything that's needed for the data for the poll book. And then it comes back to the county through the SFT and it's loaded on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually updated for you, but all
It's,
voters, whatever, all those information.
Okay.
for early voting, you see it immediately.
Oh, you
It's
see
not
it?
third, you have a web-based program that you can set and monitor turnout and gives you all nice graphs, your age, yeah, it's.
Especially those turnouts being the most beneficial for everybody. In my mind. That's what real benefit comes from.
And if there's, let me know if there's anyone you want to talk to about that that's using it right now, because we have some customers who don't.
And we've had a couple of counties pilot both situations where they use just.
Pardon?
I'm using the back of them, and I've had to help get out from the.
Carrie said she would like that. Absentee ballots.
I saw her light up whenever.
And then Annie will have to, then I heard homework, and I was like.
Well, she saw my eyes light up.
Y'all was in the lightest group of the whole time.
Twinkling at us. That was wonderful. One of my favorite presentations I've ever done. It was so wonderful.
It was nice.
It was, good questions.
Okay, what, you got a minute?
Yes, I.
So we look at it,
Yeah.
Good questions.
No, I bought it from Lonnie many years ago, and Charles did something, but I sent you what I had, and it was cut off. Yeah. I mean,
She really didn't want to do equipment.
yeah.
She
Well, I mean, what do you do in that situation? I guess, you could pay somebody $1,000 for a survey,
but you know,
yeah, she's still interested.
I need to